Hi everyone, you're welcome to another tutorial on my channel. In today's video, I'll be showing the cutting and sewing of this beautiful dress. Alongside that manipulation, how you can close your side and waist that on your pattern paper before transferring to your fabric. If you love sewing tutorials like this, then keep watching. Let's get into the video. For this tutorial, I have these two fabrics to work with. The plain one is for the upper part. It is lycra, stretchy on one side, and it is 1 yard, while this is for the lower part. It is 2.5 yards. To start with, I'll be drafting a basic bodice on this pattern paper, drawing this straight line as my starting or shoulder line. Then I will measure my shoulder to my bust point line, 9.5 inches, my shoulder to my waistline, 16 inches, and my shoulder to how long I want the upper part to be, which is 27 inches. Then I will draw straight lines across the points. Next, I will label the lines. This is the bust line, the waistline, and the hip line. On the shoulder line, I'll mark my neck measurements. The width is 3 inches and the depth is 2 inches. Notice the neck of the dress we are trying to recreate. It is neither wide nor deep, but if you want yours wider, deeper, or higher than this, just go ahead and adjust the measurement. Next, I'll mark my shoulder measurements divided by 2. Then from that point, I'll come down by 1 inch for the shoulder slope, and I'll connect the point to the neck area this way. From the shoulder slope, I'll measure my armhole depth. To get your armhole depth, you divide your bust circumference into 6, then you add 1.5 inches to the measurement. Now this is the chest line. Next, I will create my armhole curve. To get your armhole curve, you place your tape on the chest line, divide your bust circumference into 4, and on the armhole line you get the midpoint. From that midpoint you go in by ½ inch, then you connect the points together. On the waistline, get half of your nipple to nipple measurements and mark it. Mine is 4 inches. Do the same thing on the bust line as well as the hip line, then connect the points together. Next, you mark your dart. My width is 1 inch, ½ inch on both sides of the straight line. For my dart length, I'll come down from the bust line by 1 inch, and from the waistline, I'll come down by 5 inches. That is how long I want it. Then I'll connect the points together to form my dart. Now let's take the round measurement. I already measured my bust circumference, so on the waistline, I'll divide my waist circumference into 4, then replace the 1 inch dart measurement. And on the hip line, I'll measure my hip circumference divided by 4, then connect the points together. The last thing to do before cutting is to measure the side dart. So from the bust line, I'll come down by 1 inch, then connect the points back to the bust line this way. And this is all for the drafting of the basic bodies. I will cut it out now. Now, I don't want to stitch these two darts on my fabric, so the next option for me is to take them out before transferring the pattern to my fabric. To do that, I will first divide this pattern into 2 from the waistline. Then I will set the lower part aside to work on the upper part. Next is to close the side dart. To do that, I will first cut off this waist dart completely. Then I will cut open one of these lines and place it on each other this way. Then tape it down. After closing your side dart, go ahead and align these two lines to avoid shortage. Then I will cut off the excess paper. Now that we've closed the side dart, let's close the waist dart as well. But first, I will cover the space with another piece of paper, then tape it together, and I'll be doing the taping at the wrong side. So this is what I have after taping. I will trim off the excess at the lower part here. Then I will connect each of the dart leg towards the armhole. You can as well connect the dart leg towards the shoulder. You get the midpoint of the shoulder, then you connect the dart leg. You don't necessarily have to connect it towards the armhole, okay? Now I will cut one of the lines open and place it on each other just like I did the side dart. Then I will tape it down. So guys, we have successfully closed the side and the waist dart. Now you can see that the waist area is not equal. I'm going to work on it, but I'll be closing the darts of the lower parts before that. Now to close these darts, I will connect each of the dart leg towards the hem this way. Then I will cut open one of the lines and place it on each other this way. Next, I will tape it down. So this is all for the closing of the darts at the lower part. Next thing is to make the unequal parts equal by filling up the space here. I'll place a piece underneath, then tape it together. Then I will extend the waistline, remark my waist measurement, connect the points and cut out the excess. So guys, this is all for the closing of the side and waist dart, so I don't need to stitch that on my fabric anymore. The next thing to do now is to transfer this pattern onto another pattern paper, but this time around the pattern paper will be on fold because the lower part of the dress we are recreating is asymmetric, so I want to shape it out. Here I have my folded paper, and the first thing I'll do is to draw my waistline. Next, I will decide the parts I want longer and the parts I want shorter. I want the shorter parts to be on the right side, so from the waistline I measured 5.5 inches. Then I will connect the point this way and afterwards cut it out. And here we have the front pattern for our dress. The next thing to do is to transfer it to the fabric. I'll be adding sewing allowance on all the sides. I'm adding half of an inch sewing allowance except the armhole side because this dress is sleeveless, so I'm not adding sewing allowance at the armhole side. And this is what the front piece looks like. The next thing to do is to cut the back piece. For the back, I will have to divide this pattern paper into two. I will cut through the center this way because I'll be adding zipper. But if the fabric for your upper part is extremely stretchy, you don't need to add zipper, okay? You just have to cut your back and front piece the same way. So this is what I have, and this is where I will be adding zipper allowance. But before I transfer to my fabric, I will need to go in from the waistline by half of an inch. This is to eliminate zipper bulge. Now I will connect my point this way, then cut off that part. So this is what I have now. I will go ahead to transfer this to my fabric, making sure to add zipper allowance to that side. For the back neckline is not the same as the front, so I'm not cutting it out yet. The back armhole isn't the same as the front armhole as well. We need not go in by half of an inch like we did the front. Now for the sewing allowance on all the sides, it is half of an inch. When transferring your pattern to your fabric, you have to be careful so you won't misplace any of the pattern to the wrong side of the fabric. The next thing to do is to cut out the back neckline. The width is the same, but the depth is 1 inch. I first took out the half of an inch sewing allowance at the shoulder, and from that line I came down by 1 inch. I will connect the points, then cut it out. And this is all for the transferring of the back pattern, and this is what my back pieces looks like. And here is the front and back pieces together. The next thing to do now is to cut out facing to turn the neckline. This is the piece for the front facing. I folded it into 2, then I'll place my front piece on it, trace out the neckline, the shoulder, and determine the length I want it to have. So this is what it looks like. I'll place it on the main fabric right side facing, and I'll stitch it around the neckline with half of an inch. After stitching it around the neckline, I will turn it to the wrong side and use hemming gum to hold it down. For the back facing, I folded it into 2 as well, and I'll cut it out the same way I cut out the front facing. I'll place it the same way, right side facing, then stitch with half of an inch. After stitching, I'll turn it to the wrong side and use hemming gum to hold it down. And this is what I have after using the facing to turn the front neckline. I turn it to the wrong side and iron hemming gum to the middle part, just the middle part. When I'm done joining the shoulder, I will iron hemming gum to the remaining part. I stitch the back facing the same way, turn it to the wrong side and use hemming gum to hold it down. The next thing to do is to join the shoulder. So I'll place the back pieces on the front piece right side facing, then I will use the front facing to wrap the shoulder this way. I will stitch using half inch sewing allowance, and I will stitch the second shoulder the same way. This is what I have after joining the shoulder, and this is what the wrong side looks like. I also iron hemming gum to the remaining part of the front facing. The next thing to do is to turn in the rough edge of the armhole. Remember, we are not adding sleeves to this dress. I will be cutting out facing using this piece. I'll place the main fabric on it this way, then trace out the curve. You can also use a straight piece to turn in the edge of this armhole. I'm only cutting it out this way because I want it to lay properly. I will place each piece on the main fabric this way, right side facing, then go over to the sewing machine to stitch using half inch measurement. After stitching, I will turn it over to the wrong side and use hemming gum to hold it down just like I did the neck area. The next thing to do is to close the 2 sides, and this is how I will stitch it. After closing the side, the next thing to do is to attach the lower part. To do that, you have to measure around this hem to know what you have there. I have 20 inches here, that's 40 inches in total. So whatever measurements you have here, you are going to cut at least twice of it, depends on how full you want it, okay? So I have 2.5 yards here, and the length is 38 inches. The shorter part of your upper fabric determines the length, not the longer part. So I'll notch the center fold as well as the side fold. Then I will go over to the sewing machine to make little pleats round the hem. I will align each notch to the side joining and make the pleats. You can decide to gather yours, it's all fine. After stitching the pleats round the hem, this is what I have. You can see it is neatly done and our dress is almost ready. The next thing to do now is to attach the zipper. I will mark where I want it to stop, and this is how I will attach it. It won't be entirely straight. Remember, we went in by half of an inch at the waist side, and after attaching it, I will stitch the remaining part of the center back all the way to the hem. This is what the back of my dress looks like after attaching the zipper. The last thing to do here is to fold in the hem. Notice how the length is unequal. This is because of the asymmetric shape. Now you can decide to trim it to be equal or just leave it as it is. For me, I'll leave it as it is, so I'll go over to my sewing machine to fold it in and stitch it round. And with that, we've come to the end of this tutorial. Thanks for watching. If you find this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel, kindly subscribe, and I'll see you in my next one.